Right, so welcome back to Things That Bug Me. This is now episode 3, and I'm here with my good acquaintance. I wouldn't go so far as to call us friends. We've never actually met in the flesh, but we've known each other online for a little while. Yeah, Clint is with me today to talk about something that bugs him. Clint, I'll hand over to you in just a minute. You can introduce yourself a little bit, you know, where you're from, what you do, that kind of thing, especially insofar as it relates to the thing that bugs you. And then I will just give you the floor to,
Yeah.
get up ahead of steam and talk as you want. If I do interrupt you, it'll just be for a clarifying question or something, right? I'm not here to try and argue with you. But maybe for a clarifying question, if there's something I'm not clear about. So yeah, that's the
Right.
floor is yours. Off you go.
Right. Well, my name is Clint. I live in Arizona, the one state that messes with daylight savings. Like Eric said last week, and we actually were supposed to do this earlier, and because of daylight savings, it probably continued to bug you, Eric, because I was in the one state that actually nobody understands in America when it comes to that. So my what bugs me is money. Money is, it's said to be the root of all evil, but actually that's incorrect. It's the love of money that is the root of all evil, right? But it gets in the way of things. It's gotten so much in the way of things in my life. And like it has in many people, there's things you can do and you can't do because of money. Um, there's just places you can go and you can't go because of money. And it, you know, I keep not to say I'm a complete hippie in that regard. That's what they call them in America. Is just like you're a hippie if you don't want to if you don't like money. People think of Burning Man. Where everything's barter. That's a good example of kind of an alternative to money, but it's a shit show. Burning Man, especially in the last few years. So it proves that kind of my antithesis is that can we do without money? And I've looked at options. I've looked at philosophies and thought processes. One of the guys, there's a project out of Florida called the Venus Project,
Mm-hmm.
and he's this engineer architect. I think he's dead now, but was trying to kind of do these.
102 he was when he died, Jack Fresco. Yeah. Really,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, and he was and he was positing like, what if we had no money, and we kind of did this bartering and kind of just worked towards the common good. And I thought it was lovely. I mean, I really do and did. But it's just like, yeah, but and I've seen how money destroys relationships. I've seen how it gets in the way of things so much in my life. It's just like, and I'm like, I'd rather just be done with it. Because it's just, it's almost like you can go out to dinner with someone. I was out to dinner with someone the other day, and of course it came down to who's paying. And that even so in just in little ways is like, and it becomes this point of contention. It was a lovely conversation until we got into that. you know and one of the places I lived in northern Arizona about a year ago, some of my background is I've had a tech company. I've worked as a stockbroker, so I've gotten involved with money in various ways. Last year, I worked at the casino. I've just got a new job at a casino, and so I see kind of how money gets in the way. And I had to go through this big new hire thing about counterfeit money and all the lengths that people go to. It's like they've got these color codes and the holograms with the money. This goes way beyond the history of money, right? I was reading up to kind of for this interview kind of stuff as far as money came out on the first sort of money was on clay pots about 6,000 years ago, where people would write their debts on these pots. And they say, and they'd give this is what you owe. And so then it migrated into kind of more barter system. Now it's interesting that China seems to be the place where money kind of really, a lot of people think of England, the stock exchange and everything, but it actually was China who developed more of the money systems. They developed more of a barter. They developed the first actual money. And then, of course, it went to the Roman Empire and the Greeks. And now we have Bitcoin. And a lot of these questions about money, I think, are coming up because we are looking at possibly a migration into this new form of transaction, right? And because we realized how unstable money is as a form of meaning and value. So it's just like, so I understand in my own philosophy how when I'm thinking of really wanting, just really tired of money, I realize that we have to have something that we value, something that is transactional, that we have value and provides meaning between two individuals for service, for goods. So I'm like, okay, so I like the barter system. I was talking to a couple whose his dad is in Vegas, or actually he's north of Vegas, and he's a doctor, just retired as a doctor. And again, tired of money. I'm like, wow, okay, tired of money being a doctor, but he's doing post-retirement doctor, medical advice and help, but he's gone completely to trade, and he trades in gold, silver, and bullets. And and apparently there's these off-grid communities that are they're trying to do this. I have another friend in northern New Mexico who they're kind of like trading bread for leather goods, bags or just something that they need, shoes. So, you know, I don't know, but I think we need something scaled. I look at digital Bitcoin type stuff and I go, yes, it answers some things, but for me, I feel that we have to have, it really comes down to the question and relationship of value.
Yeah.
Like, and
Okay, so
and actually
do you mind if I
relationship.
pause you there? Because
Go
there's
for it.
a lot that you've said there, and there's a lot that's come up for me while you said there. So
Yeah.
before we get even further behind, let me just pause you there. So, um, yeah, so the idea of a barter or a gift economy. I mean, my understanding that Burning Man is more of a gift economy rather than barter. Like you don't give with the
Right.
expectation of immediate, like transactional return, right? It's a sort
Right.
of grand vision of reciprocity, right? Everyone gives what they can, takes what they need, and it all comes out in the wash. I think is the sort of is I think the sort of general idea of it. Charles
Yeah.
Eisenstein wrote a book about this as well. Like Sacred Economics is essentially about what a gift economy might look like on a global scale, right? And so these things have been thought
Right.
about seriously. Um, I was actually involved in a endeavor called the Money Free Party, where we were going to try and create a political party in the UK on the
Oh,
platform of
wow.
organizing society in the absence of money. And Jacques Fresco, who you mentioned at the start, was one of the inspirations behind that. He
Oh,
and the
wow.
Geist movement and Peter Joseph, were some of the inspirations behind that. So it's interesting that you bring that up because that was a big part of my own journey towards wherever I am now, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what I want to get into a little bit is I also find it very interesting that your career seems to have been very intimately involved with the manipulation and whatever of money, right? Despite the
Right.
fact you have this aversion to it, and yet it seems to have been what you've been drawn to for your career. Maybe not your life's work. Maybe that's a bit putting it a bit strong, but your career path seems to have centered around it, which is interesting, and will lead nicely into part
Yeah.
two. But what I want to start digging into is what's the what's the emotional thing with money? What is it that actually bugs you? Is it the that you mentioned value a couple of times, and one of my issues with money, I don't know if you relate to this, but one of my issues with money is this attempt to value all things with the same metric, right? Like everything gets valued with this one metric. And there are obvious things which don't, you can't put obvious dollar values on them, right? There are lots and lots of, usually the most important things in life, right, are the ones that elude monetary value. And so this is, and Bitcoin as well doesn't solve that problem, right? It's still essentially a magic token that you can buy anything with, right? If you have enough of them,
Right.
you buy whatever you want. It's still essentially a magic token. So you got, Bitcoin doesn't solve the magic token problem, but crypto more broadly possibly could, in that you could have a range of currencies whose purpose is to value different things in the world, right? And so you can
Yes.
actually have bespoke currencies which articulate value in particular domains. And that could be very useful. The other useful thing I see about the flow of money around the culture is that it can indicate what is going on in the culture, right? What's popular, what's needed, where are the shortfalls and the surpluses? Where money is moving around can highlight these things, which is important information. So there's a few thoughts, but what I would like to start to home in on, I'll give you a chance to respond to all of that, obviously. But what I'd like to start to home in on is what actually bugs you about money. What's the personal gripe that you have with money? You say it gets in the way of things, but relationships, like obfuscation of the real things of value in life. What is it that really raises your temperature?
It's equating it as power, which is an
Okay.
illusion. I mean, it has power, of course, but it's just like you're saying, how does it get to that place where it's so pervasive? It's because yes, it's a value question, but it's that we've actually put so much power into this vessel. It's just like, when we look at militaries, it's just like how militaries have escalated over the centuries with different nations. It's just like, did we really need that to keep our borders safe? That level of machinery, that powerful of machinery, and it's not the power of the machinery, it's the power that we give it. So it's just like, if we say, for instance, if we withdrew, so my answer, getting in a little bit into getting ahead of ourselves, is to withdraw the degree of power that we give this vessel, and we return it to relationships and value within relationships. Start to, yes, it's great that we have this spectrum within digital commerce, and I like the idea, like you. I have a problem with how that will be executed, because it's just like, because even if we have this other that we we relegate to the governance of that, and it's a digital place, it's just like, we still are really personally responsible. And so as long as as long as we're not being responsible, and we're getting away from being mindful or conscious within that transactional process, there's always going to be a great degree of fuckery. So I guess it's just like leading in more into your part two. Is just like, if we realize that there is a power in money, and we scale back that meaning within that vessel, we could instead kind of invest that, realize it in relationships. I've already did this with my children, when I told them about school. Go ahead.
Yeah, so the relationships. So what I'm hearing when you talk about relationships
You
is
got a
is
point now.
real,
Remember?
as opposed to the abstraction of everything that money tends to gets us to do. Is that what you're? Yeah, okay. And
Yeah.
so it's that disconnection from heart, from reality, from earth, from grounding. It's that disconnection. So it's the yeah, and this is what you're talking about, the power that we bestow on it. It actually elevates it above these things, right? Money is a fictional
Yeah.
entity, but we elevate it above the real important things in life. Okay, I'm getting you. I'm getting you.
Yeah. Because basically, and then from that, it's a security. So even like in dating relationships at our age, it's just like, women will look at your bank statement, not specifically, but they're scaling it, they're understanding, like, okay, how secure, but that's what we say, how secure is this man going to make me? How secure is this job going to be? It's just like, so we've also equated power, and we've equated security and safety
Mm-hmm.
to this thing, when security and safety and power are within ourselves, individually and collectively within relationships.
Mm-hmm.
So it's and then we go, I saw this in brokerage, I see this in casinos. This is like, so there's all these protocols around the maintenance of these monies that are supposed to make sure that there's no fuckery. The thing is, it's just like, well, of course there's fuck obsessive. And this is also when you start talking to someone and they make it about money, they make something about money. They talk about money, religion, and sex. That's the things you don't want to talk about. But that is the thing. That's why I wanted to start here with money, because it's this place that through people and collectives, even in our business, at the end of the day, we go, how much money did I make at this work? Is it, and I think that's why there's a lot of problems within work relationships these days, employers and employees, is because, again, we've kind of gotten away and said, okay, money is that bottom line.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
money
yeah.
is
Money is
losing
the
more and more
you're
value.
earning more money than I am, therefore you're being
Right.
valued more highly than I am. And yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So the
Yeah.
conflation, yeah, yeah. So yeah, another thing that came up as you were talking there, security and safety, that we hoard away money in pension funds or whatever, right, in order to ensure security and safety into our old age. And in doing so, the need for the support of family, community, etc., goes away, right? Like that, we don't invest
Right.
our time and energy in that. We instead invest our time and energy in accumulating money, right? This is
Right.
yeah, there, yeah. So this is the alchemy is becoming clear here, right? It's about refocusing time and energy and competence, right? What gives you security in this world is competence, not just your own personal competence, but the competence of the network in which you are embedded, right? Like that is
Right.
actually what provides you security and safety in the world, and purpose and meaning and place.
Right. It is well, it's trust, because relationships, as like you said in the beginning, not necessarily a friend at this point, which is a very cute observation, because a lot of people don't make that observation. We've actually known each other for about a year. We've been on this online forum having these conversations, and some people might equate that with have being friends, because we come from friends Facebook world. Facebook world said if you just click on that, that's your new friend.
Dear friends, yeah, yeah,
But it's just like, but that relationship has not been developed. And usually relationships are developed by hardship. So it's just like by working through processes by disagreements. See, that's another thing. Is just like money kind of that obscures that, because it's like if it's just like, if you have enough money, sometimes they say you have enough friends. Well, you don't have friends because the money goes away, and so do the friends. So
mm-hmm.
it's just like, so again, it's taking away from that process
Yeah.
of relationship and
And
creating.
it's interesting how money can make people act against their own better judgment, kind of thing, right? Like
Yeah.
the yeah, yeah, yeah. Bribery is an obvious example, but yeah, the ability of money to corrupt people's principles and higher nature is pretty
Yeah.
extraordinary.
Well, it's just like I was looking at some marketing recently, because that's been part of my background as well, and mostly with small businesses, but also I've worked in the corporate sector, and it's just like this whole concept around predatory, extractive purposes of
Mm.
businesses, profit motive. It's it's yeah, it really does. It's kind of like we cannot, well, a lot of the how people get hooked into. I was watching this video yesterday about all these subscription services. This young guy was talking about, I'm paying $1,000 in subscription services, and he was trying to figure out, how did I get to this place? And he goes, I got there because they just know there's these little, like, they make it hard to cancel something. I go, oh no, I thought I canceled it. And so there's the accumulation of just kind of like, oh my gosh, and if we would just step back and go, and it happened to him because he was like, I just don't have the spendable money that I used to. I
Mm.
can't go out with my friends. I can't pay. Sometimes I can't pay for rent. And I'm like, I thought I had the money in the account. So there's all these things in our society that are just, a death by a thousand paper cuts
Yeah,
in
and
the
it's all
front.
automated, right? It's all automated, just a little bit
Yeah,
here, a little bit there, 0.5% on every credit card transaction. But a $50 bill, you can spend that $50 bill 1,000 times and it's still a $50 bill and it still has $50 of purchasing power, right? Whereas $50 on a credit card,
right,
50 transactions, it's all gone, or 100 transactions, maybe it's all gone in fees, right? Like that $50 no longer exists as
right.
spendable money, right? It's all in the yeah, in the credit card company.
It's too easy, like even in like the last couple of years, I've spent a lot of time teaching myself how to go back to cash. And
Mm.
it's been amazing, because it's like when I do have cash, and so this is playing into the second section. It's like when I do have cash, I'm much more responsible with it, because it has a physicality to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know when it's gone, it's gone. Digital, we're like, oh, I have overdraft, I have overtax draft protection, I've got savings. So it's just like there is a value in money in that degree because when it has a physicality, I can see like what's going on. And I think so if we're going to have money, we're going to have this transactional type of item, we have to have this. I think we have to have a physicality, you
Mm.
know, that is paramount. And then but then we can't give it its power. We can't give it more power than it really has because it is too easy within the subscription environment to give away that power piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. So we have to
It really,
regain.
it is the one form of power that we have as consumers is where we spend
Right.
our money, right? Like
Yeah.
that's it. That's pretty much where it ends. Votes don't mean anything anymore, right? Our one remaining piece of power is where we spend our money. And even that's being taken away because we have to spend our money on rent and electricity and gas and there's nothing left after that for a lot of people, right? So
Right.
even that choice is being removed from us to a certain extent.
Well, yeah, it's but if we develop a more conscious, responsible relationship with
Yeah.
the money, it's just like there's a game that I got turned on to by the self-help guru Robert Kiyosaki from Rich Man, Poor Man. He wrote the book. So he had a game called something. It was something like Quick Cash or something like that. It was actually like Monopoly, but it was really revelatory, this game, because there's two levels to the game. The first level is it's called the rat race. And so you basically, like everybody, you have a role, you have a job, you're given the card of this is okay, you're a dentist or you're a janitor. And this is how your budget is. But then as you continue on the game, that role has more things that are conditioned with it. So the dentist has to send his kids to a private school.
Mm-hmm.
His expenses for his condo are more than the guy who owns a trailer.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's interesting. So the first part of the game is getting out of the rat race. So the getting out of the rat race is to get to that next level, which is where rich people tend to be. And I've seen this actually in experience talking to and when I was in brokerage, is that they're very much about the relationships within their sphere of influence. So it's become much less about money because they have money, they want more money, but they realize it's not really investment. There is an investment in certain products, services, real estate, whatever it may be, but they understand that the investment is in relationships.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the primary differences between people who are in the rat race and people who are beyond it. And so I think we all need to learn the rich people's mentality of saying and realizing it, of really, really valuing relationships in this transcendent manner.
Mm. I mean, I totally agree with you. It's not always easy to value relationships when you are seriously concerned that that's your last 50p you've put in the electricity meter, and
Mhm.
the lights are going out in half an hour. So yeah, but that said, I do agree. Well, just rewinding a little bit when you were talking about cash earlier on, how you've been sort of making a deliberate effort to use cash more. It sounded while you were talking that you do actually see there is some utility in the use of money. Like it doesn't sound like you're not totally anti-money.
No,
It's the overreach and over. Yeah. It's the putting too much power and influence into its hands. It's not. It's not the thing. It's not an absolute position, right? It's a yeah. Okay, fair enough.
no. Well, yeah, it's just something that frustrates me, something that angers me. It's something that cuts into the intimacy of relationships and the
Mm,
building that trust.
mm,
Because I mean, but in the same way, it can actually build that trust. Like I've loaned money to people, which friends, which they say you shouldn't do, and I think that I agree that it really is a test of relationship when you lend money to a friend. But at the same time, it becomes an opportunity as well. So it's just like you talk about the 50p kind of thing. It's just like I think about this story about Bitcoin in I think it was El Salvador, not El Salvador, but it was south of an African country because they had all the homeless, they had a lot of homeless, a lot of poor, and And one of the things is that the money was not worth anything in this country.
Mm.
Then they switched
I
over
think
to
it,
Bitcoin,
I think it was
and
El
they have
Salvador.
cell
I
phone.
heard about this. I think it
Yeah,
was El Salvador. Yeah, I think you're right.
yeah, and this pizza delivery guy ended up becoming one of the chief educators in the country,
Hmm.
just to the poor and showing them as just like, look, this gives you your power back.
Hmm.
This, if you store it on the, here, and it's just like, and now, and then a grocer got in kind of in line with Bitcoin, and gave the opportunity for people to buy with Bitcoin
Hmm.
as far as groceries, and that cemented that the poor now could get their basic supplies.
Hmm.
So so money is, and that's a form of money, but it's just like we have to have these forms. But if there isn't the right relationships, and there's not a fostering of actual care within some of the governance of it, and that really is personal at the end of the day. But there has to be some that grocery chain owner, when he in that society, it became something that actually helped people out of poverty. And so there is this use of right money,
Yeah, yeah.
that can be, yeah, yeah, I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, no, yeah, it's clear. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding you rightly. But yeah, no, that's absolutely clear. Yeah, I think most figures. One of the problems we had with the money free party was that the idea of no money was just too radical for most people. Like, no, you can't
Yes.
run a world without money. You need money for, and I think that's certainly true. Like I think a world without money is possible, but not in one step. Right? It's a process of gradually working our way through our shadows until we can deal with each other without needing to have these intermediaries between us. Free
we,
was
we have
just
to develop
radically one
trust.
step. Yeah.
Yeah, we have to develop more,
Money's a substitute for trust, isn't it? I will give you this in exchange for that. We don't have to trust each other, right? I'm
relationship with
handing
each
you
other.
over these things. We
Yeah,
don't have to
no,
trust each other.
yeah, and that way it is an evil. Not just that's the love part, because
Hmm.
when Jesus was saying that, he wasn't saying it from a Western mentality. He was saying it from a Middle Eastern first century view, so love to a Middle Eastern at that time had this kind of attachment. That's why Buddhism talks about the problem is the attachment we have to these things.
Mm, yeah.
So if we
Okay.
can release the attachment and allow them to be part of that dance, or that life relationship, that vitality, and allow the opportunity. That's why I say it's just like relation trust is built through dealing with issues. So, but we are in a society that's evasive of issues, including money issues. We just like, okay, we allow bankruptcy. It's like
Mm.
I've gone through a bankruptcy because I was a stupid young person who didn't know how to handle my money as a stockbroker, which is kind of ironic because I'm handling other people's money very responsibly, just not my own.
Yeah, I mean, bankruptcy is an interesting one, right? It's one of those things which it's a loving thing, bankruptcy, right? It allows people to fuck
Yes.
up and recover and get back on their feet and start over again, right? Like it is, but like with many things like that, it's also abused, especially by corporations, right? Who shirk their responsibilities by dissolving,
Yeah.
by dissolving themselves, and deliberately use it as a means by which they can, you know, grab and run. So yeah, but it is there's so this actually moves us quite nicely into the, and we've done a little bit of this already, but like what beautiful things, what loving things, what worthwhile things can we extract from some of the shadows of around money? And
Well, we can allow it to create responsibility. It's just like, because part of the problem, say you're talking about, especially the poor, as there's more and more poor and
mm,
functionally poor. You could be now middle class and very poor
yeah,
because
absolutely.
you're spending your time chasing things, chasing bureaucracy. So we can use it, like I've used it in the last few years, to scale down what I own, because it's just like, if I can sell what I own, and I don't realize, I don't, I'm like, I'm not going to play with this. I'm not going to utilize this. Somebody else might be. So it gives me an opportunity, as my girlfriend likes to say, to pay it forward. You so there's an opportunity with this kind of these money woes that more and more of us find ourselves into. Is it's like, okay, what really is important? So the juiciness is to really look inside and look at our lives and say, what is really meaningful? And not only just what, but who? And see where are those relationships which are just more, I would say, moneyed relationships that are dependent upon what I do for you, where I, take you, or where we go together, where we hang out. And so we have an opportunity to reevaluate, reassess, and really look at what we value and what we need to value. Maybe we haven't valued as much, or so there's just because I feel like the money thing is more than attachment, it's an addiction now for most of us. And so we have an opportunity, just like most addicts do. It's just like
Go
when
cold turkey.
yeah. Exactly. We're talking about the juice now. So okay, I know I'm going to have continuously less, and my money's going to mean less and less and less as I go on. That we know. What I own is going to be less valuable. The money that I use is going to get me less. So what strategy do I undertake to kind of to realize that, but to accommodate for those changes? And so that's why I'm saying the value of relationships.
And not live in fear, still have a sense of security and safety, and not be living in fear. Yeah.
Right. And trust, and build those trusts now. Build those trust. It's just like, Douglas Rushkoff's The Billionaire Escape Plan. When he was asked before those elites, what should they do? And he goes, take care of your management, your security staff. Because historically, in the Roman Empire, when they didn't do that, that's when they get stabbed in the back. They're like, they want to know, should we go to Mars? And should we get these islands? And he goes, no, you still need a staff. You need to take care of that staff, and it's the same with us. We need to take care of the people that are closest to us, develop that community, develop those tribes. And online is great, but definitely on the terrestrial, in person. The more we can do that.
Yeah, no, that ties it all up quite nicely, right? That as money, either the monetary system collapses, or inflation erodes the value and usefulness of money slowly over time, right? Whether it's sudden or gradual, it is an opportunity what is it? The necessity is the mother of invention, right? Like,
right.
Only at the precipice do we find the will to change. And so actually it's not a negative thing. It's a positive thing, because it is forcing us to focus on finding value and security and safety in our relationships with each other, and the trust that we build with each other, and not in some external fictional thing that we've created that we can't actually rely on. Yeah, I like that. Very nice message to tie it all up with. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to throw in at the end before we say goodbye?
No, I mean, I think that was lovely. I appreciate the opportunity. I hope we get to do this again, and I think you're going to do good, Eric, because you've got all those attributes for a good podcast guy, and not just putting sunshine up your butt, but it's just like, you have to have some attributes to kind of be able to, and I know, having known you for now a year or so, it's just like, I know that you have a way of probing, but you also have a way of developing that rapport very fast. I mean, everybody in our little group on the crew thinks you've been there for years. And because it's just like we've entered into that kind of intimacy, of discussion.
I think that's partly the nature of the group and the kind of things that we talk about as well. It develops that intimacy quite quickly. But thank you very much. I appreciate those. I appreciate those kind words.
But it's just like, I think you've clued into something. It's just like, and really honed in, like you do in our conversations. It's like, what bugs you is a great place to start. And everybody, that's what the internet's about. If it's not about stalking, it's about moaning. So it's just like, but the cool thing is, you're not just sticking with it, because it's like, at any point in time, I can look on the internet and somebody bemoaning something, and it will gather some interest. But what you're also doing is it is alchemic. And I think, to me, that would be my suggestion is, and I don't think I even need to do it, because I think you just have that natural sort of inquiry that goes from bemoaning to alchemic. Like, what the fuck can we say about this? Where can we take this? You're not a fatalist at the end of the day. And
I'm not. I'm actually quite hopeful for the future. God knows why.
Because we have a lot of people bemoaning, and it's that they're not fun too, but I think that's where I like when I'm clarifying the time and my attention on podcasts and things. I'm looking more for that now. But first, I was just like, "Oh, well, yeah, we're all fucked, we're all fucked," you know. But as I'm like, there's that part of me like, no, we need to put this. There's an opportunity. There's juice in this. So I commend you for having the idea, and I think it's going to do great. I know I might be overselling.
Thank you. Well, let's hope so. Let's hope so. It's very early days yet. But yeah, let's hope so. And as I have more people on and they tell their networks, oh, I was on a podcast, have a watch of it. Maybe that builds an audience over time. Anyway, we'll see. I mean, I'm really not that bothered. I'm doing it primarily for fun. But you know, building an audience would be nice also.
Yeah, I think you will. I'm going to work towards it. So, well, thanks, Eric.
No, thank you for your time, Clint. Thank you very much for coming on. Much appreciated. And I'll see you again soon.
Yep.
Ciao.